Endgame is fast approaching and we couldn't be more excited. While we've covered a ton of theories of what could happen, we wanted to take a closer look at the post-credit scenes to see what could happen next. There is a ton of ground to cover though, spanning 21 movies across more than 10 years. Marvel has been leaving a trail of breadcrumbs for years, and it all leads to one place. We're in the Endgame now, but you won't have to use the time stone to go back and watch every single teaser. We've got you covered. There will be some Captain Marvel spoilers though, so you have been warned. Let's jump on in. Iron Man was the first movie to populate the MCU, and it started the whole post-credit scene craze. It only had one, but that's all it needed. Nick Fury has infiltrated Stark's home, deactivated Jarvis, and made it very clear to Tony who he is. Fury tells him he is not alone and wants to recruit him for the Avengers initiative. Just a little something he started back in the mid-90s after aliens invaded Earth. This was revealed in Captain Marvel, but we'll jump back to that later. Next up is the Incredible Hulk. The first scene is of no significance since Marvel completely scrapped the love story between Dr. Banner and Betty Ross. The next scene is quite intriguing though because it features General Ross. You might not remember this scene because over the years the actor portraying him shifted. Like Terrence Howard playing James Rhodes, General Ross also was replaced for his next role in Civil War. In any case, the scene has the distressed general pounding drink after drink until Tony Stark comes into the bar. The two exchange pleasantries, bickering back and forth, but Stark still reveals that they are assembling a team. Not much has come from this scene, but it does show that despite his troubles, Tony Stark is determined to defend Earth. Tony wasn't exactly a model Avenger back in those days, but this scene does show that he is dead serious. This might help later if the team does end up time traveling. In Iron Man 2, we're teased the Thor movie, and that's about it. No Endgame spoilers just yet. In Thor, though, Fury shows Dr. Selvig the Tesseract, and we learn just how important it is. This scene sets the tone for what's to come and shows how dedicated Fury is to it. Again, in Captain America: The First Avenger, Fury comes out of the shadows to recruit Steve Rogers. Here he says that he's trying to save the world, and save it he might. Fury will play a big role in Endgame, even though he's been lost to the snap. At the end of Infinity War, he paged Captain Marvel, and this might just be how the universe is saved. One of our favorites, but also most useless scenes, comes in The Avengers. The gang silently eats their shawarma in a destroyed New York diner. No Thanos, no stones, no avenging, just some great food. Maybe that's the secret to universal peace? Shawarma? Alright, so maybe not. But it's not the craziest theory to come out recently. We're looking at you, Ant-Man. In The Avengers, we also get our first look at Thanos. A shadowy figure tells Thanos that to challenge them is to court death. This could have been important because in the comics, Thanos is madly in love with Death herself. Marvel went a different direction, but the message remains the same. Thanos won the first round, but as he first found out, they are not so easily defeated. Iron Man 3 just had another fun scene, but didn't exactly progress the plot. As Tony rants about numerous issues, Dr. Banner dozes off. In Thor: Dark World, we meet the Collector as he intakes the Reality Stone. This is the first time we learn that the Tesseract and the Ether are Infinity Stones. If the team does end up time traveling, it's quite useful to know exactly where the stone is, and that it will be safe until Thanos takes it forcefully. The other end credits scene shows a passionate affair between Thor and Jane Foster, but Marvel quickly ended that soon after the movie. Sorry, Thor, maybe next time. Our biggest foreshadowing of what's to come happens in the first scene in The Winter Soldier. Hydra agent Baron von Strucker tells his minion that we are no longer in a world of spies, not even a world of heroes. Instead, he says we're in a world of miracles. This seems a bit out of place and doesn't really bring any context to the scene. This could be our first glimpse of foreshadowing we see in these scenes. The Avengers truly will need a miracle to fight Thanos in Endgame. In Age of Ultron, we get our first good look at the Infinity Gauntlet. Thanos ominously says he'll just have to do it himself, thus starting the Infinity War. In this point in time, the universe is full of chaos, and now the perfect time to begin his hunt. The gauntlet is also inside a sealed cage somewhere unbeknownst to us. But again, if time travel is possible, this could be our hero's chance to snag the gauntlet before Thanos can. There are a couple of theories circling that our heroes will gather their own stones. Without the gauntlet, undoing the snap would probably be impossible. Also, this scene gives us more of a timeline for when the gauntlet was made. We know that Thanos forced the Dwarf King to make the gauntlet on Nidavellir. Appearing in Ant-Man, the Winter Soldier is tied up and thus begins the plan to help save him. This movie also introduces the Wasp, but no mention of how to stop Thanos. We see the Winter Soldier again in Civil War. By this time, Bucky has come to his senses. They've removed his arm and put him in cryostasis to be kept in Wakanda. Next up is Doctor Strange. We're treated to a strange post-credit scene. Doctor Strange tells Thor that he keeps a watch list of the most dangerous beings around. But when he first learns of Thanos in Infinity War, he isn't aware of him. Now, this could either be that Doctor Strange is playing the long con and wants to play dumb, or just bad storytelling on Marvel's part. Although at this point, this is highly unlikely. Marvel had already begun deep world building at this point, and it seems crazy that they would overlook this key detail. Instead, if we assume that he already knows who Thanos is and is playing dumb, he has already started his plan. Given his deep connection to the Time Stone and magic within the universe, he is probably already fully aware of what's to come. We also learn that Mordo is going around and correcting the magic in the world. He visits Pangborn and removes all magic from his body, thus crippling him again. This story hasn't been tied up yet, but we can expect Mordo to play a big role in the upcoming Doctor Strange 2. Flying into Guardians of the Galaxy 2, Kraglin is learning to control his Yaka arrow that he inherited from Yondu. Kraglin was nowhere to be found in Infinity War, but director James Gunn said in a tweet that Kraglin is still around, don't worry. He has important stuff to do, and all will be eventually revealed. We may see him as soon as Endgame, where the Yaka arrow could prove to be a valuable resource. Again in Guardians 2, we're introduced to Adam Warlock. This was just a teaser for now, as we only see him in his birthing pod, but we can expect to see him in the upcoming movies. Adam Warlock plays a big role in the comics, but we probably won't see him until after Endgame. Next up in honorable mentions is the Stan Lee cameo in Guardians of the Galaxy Volume 2. Stan is sitting in a spacesuit surrounded by the Watchers. The Watchers are a godlike race of ancient beings. Their job is to watch over the universe, as their name implies. There are tons of fan theories that speculate that Stan Lee is a Watcher himself. This theory works mainly because Stan Lee can be found in every MCU movie in one way or another. Stan could be a Watcher that is observing the events on Earth unfold as several Infinity Stones inhabit the planet. Officially, he is just an informant to the Watchers, but that wouldn't quite explain how he has been able to appear throughout time from the 1940s to now. The appearance might mean nothing for Endgame, but it's a worthy inclusion because we've seen nothing of the Watchers otherwise. Flying into Thor Ragnarok, we see the opening scene for Infinity War. Thor and Loki discuss the ethics and morality of bringing him back to Earth. Thor says everything will be just fine with a hearty chuckle. Things will not be fine, however, as Thanos' ship looms over their brand new ship housing what's left of Asgard. In 2018, Black Panther clawed its way into theaters, and by the end of it, the King of Wakanda reveals himself to the United Nations. The crowd is unimpressed by King T'Challa and laughs off his offer of peace. His posse do nothing but grin with delight, setting us up for Black Panther 2. Unfortunately, our beloved king was lost to the snap, and we won't see what happens from this assembly in Endgame. We're just gonna have to wait for the sequel. Womp womp. Our next honorary mention comes from the latest MCU release, Captain Marvel. In the post-credits scene, we discover how the name Avengers Initiative came to be. Fury had named it after Carol Danvers' codename on her jet. However, we find it a bit hard to believe that's the only reason he named it that. It could be entirely possible that the seeds of revolution had been planted by our time-traveling heroes by now. This could be the only inspiration he needs to name it Avengers. After going through all of the post-credit scenes, not a whole lot can be gained for what will happen in Endgame. But what we can gather is what might happen next. We know that another timeline will have to be created or the snap reversed because Marvel has set up a few movies for sequels. You can't really have Black Panther 2 without Black Panther. Similarly, you can't have the Guardians of the Galaxy without any Guardians. Following the Infinity War, Marvel is ramping up for their next big arc, the Eternals. We've already seen a few pieces from that arc, like Isan the Searcher in Guardians of the Galaxy and Ego from Volume 2. Beyond that, it's uncertain where exactly Marvel will lead the franchise. With only a short while before Endgame comes to theaters, we hope this recap has helped jog your memory of Marvel's best Easter eggs. Was there any key detail we missed that you think will be important to Endgame? What about to their next phase in the MCU? Maybe Howard the Duck makes his return and defeats Thanos himself? Unfortunately, we're just gonna have to wait and see, but for now, rewatching everything in the Marvel MCU is our best glimpse for the future. Let us know down in the comments below what you think, and while you're down there, don't forget to subscribe to all the latest theory and breakdown videos before Endgame drops.